Muted.
Okay, good morning everybody. Thank you for taking time to join the webinar here that Enertech's putting on. This is part 2 of our compact horizontal package model series. And with me today I have Mr. Brian Erlob. Again, he was with us yesterday as well, offering part 1 as the presenter. So Brian will take over this momentarily. But I just wanted to welcome everybody. My name is Tim Wright and I'm the residential sales manager here for Enertech Global. And we have a phenomenal team, and it's great to be able to have these opportunities to present our new products to you folks. So again, thank you for taking time of being with us today. And what I'd like to be able to do is just share a few items or featuring webinars coming up. So obviously we have our part 2 today. Also in this series on December the 7th of this year at 8:45 Central Time, we're going to feature the product of Schwepp and cover the benefits of brazed plate heat exchange in comparison to maybe the coaxial that you may all be very familiar with. On December the 14th, again 8:45 Central Time, GeoFlow, and they will be featuring a conversation on commercial pumping systems. That'll be an incredible webinar that you won't want to miss. So as we move through this webinar today, just for the sake of maybe some housekeeping items, this is going to be recorded, so it will be made available to you folks. And then also, I would just encourage, as we move through the webinar, feel free to take notes and submit questions. On the screen, you'll be able to see the question area over on your right-hand side. So if there is something that comes to mind and you'd like an answer to your question on this webinar, please type in that question, and we will get to that at the very end of this webinar. So thank you again for joining us. It's a privilege to have you on this webinar with us today. And with that, Brian, let's jump into the unique features that we teased everybody with yesterday, but let's take a deeper look. So thank you, Brian, for taking this, and let's move our folks through.
Thanks, Tim. Yeah, good morning, everybody. Hopefully everybody that's on was able to join us yesterday to get the overview of the new compact horizontal package model that we're releasing. And just a real quick recap of that model overview. Again, what's available today is sizes 1.5 through 6 ton single stage and 2 through 6 ton 2-stage. And we do have more sizes coming on the fractional tonnages, which should be out by about mid-January, which will complete the entire product line from 1/2 ton all the way through 6 ton with the horizontal product. Again, this is a single and 2-stage Copeland scroll compressors. We have PSC blower motor standard on the single stage, ECM standard on the 2-stage, as well as ECM available in the single stage. And we also have some other options with some high static and some constant torque motors available as well. One thing we're really going to cover today is the brazed plate heat exchanger on the source side of the product. We're going to talk about that in a lot more detail. And we also are offering a coaxial heat exchanger option with this product for those certain applications where maybe a coax is a better choice than the brazed plate. Maybe residentially with an open loop or commercially with an open cooling tower or something like that. This product has been designed and features a heavy gauge steel cabinet, 18 gauge all the way around with a 16 gauge bottom panel with rail stiffeners, so it's a very robust cabinet, and we do offer the residential brand colors to match the rest of the products in the residential sector. This product comes with 1-inch female pipe thread on all source piping connections. That's on all models. It's a very compact design with high efficiencies. It's what Enertech has been known for, and when we design products, We're really trying to fit both the retrofit market and the new construction market with one product versus multiple tiers. So our goal is always to design a very small cabinet, but yet high efficiency, to make sure we meet the Energy Star standards, the ASHRAE 90.1 standards, which this product more than meets. We have all the voltages available, both residentially and commercially, with this product. And the air pattern is field selectable or convertible, field convertible from side to end discharge. And then, of course, the right and left-hand return air would be ordered as such. Okay, let's get into a little more detail. Yesterday we talked about the overview. Let's talk about the actual components that we've selected and chosen for this product. The biggest change with this product that Enertech made was going to a braze plate heat exchanger. And if anybody knows anything about heat transfer and braze plates, they are superior in heat transfer versus a coaxial heat exchanger. But a lot of the industry hasn't went to braze plates in small packaged water source heat pumps, primarily for two reasons. Number one would be freeze protection, or the fear of freezing and rupturing the heat exchanger. And number two is for fouling. Well, hopefully what I'll show you here is that we've done extensive research and testing, and also with our vendor SWEP, that will alleviate any of those concerns. They've done an excellent job making sure that this is going to be a very reliable product, but we just couldn't ignore all the great benefits that braze plate brings to the table. So obviously we've got a very high performance heat exchanger in a very small package, which allows us to, again, make that unit overall very compact in nature. We've got a very low water side pressure drop. So, you know, when we talk about EERs with the product, that doesn't even include the pumping power, or the pumping penalty, I should say, as part of that equation. Well, if we look at our old HT product with a coax, we had 15 feet ahead for the pumping. With the new ZTO 60 and the braze plate, we've cut that down by down to a third of 5 feet ahead. So much less pressure drop through the water side, which isn't included in the overall EER. And that's a pretty tremendous benefit, really, when you look at an overall project and the efficiency, the system efficiency. Okay, obviously it's very small, very lightweight. Actually, the direct comparison to a coax of similar size would be about 70 pounds lighter. We've also got less refrigerant volume needed within this heat exchanger, and paired that with the microchannel, now we've got a balanced charge between heating and cooling, whereas with the coax we did not have a balanced charge. So then we needed to add a charge compensator from switching from heating to cooling to balance out that charge. So this is also a nice benefit. It is proven technology. It's been used industry-wide for all different applications, but this particular heat exchanger is a little bit different. It's what we call asymmetrical, and I'll show you a slide here what that means, but it really just helps us so we can alleviate any of those freeze issues and fouling issues. Enertech also upgraded their controls, and primarily to make sure that we, again, do not freeze this heat exchanger. So what we've done is we've went to not only freeze protection, temperature sensing, but we've also added in flow proofing. And the flow proofing isn't just a flow switch or a paddle switch that's the same switch for every machine. The flow switch is actually sized based on the tonnage of the unit. So a 2-ton unit would have a smaller flow switch than a 5-ton because your minimum flow for each changes, but we've set that flow switch for the absolute minimum we could see for each specific size unit. So it's very detailed, highly engineered, not just a standard paddle switch that works for everything. And again, we do have the coaxial heat exchanger optional, which will come out here in 2017. So if we dive a little deeper into this braze plate, one of the things that SWEP is really known for in the industry is their distribution of the refrigerant and water through the braze plate. And that's really what they have perfected over the years. And if you look at the two images there on the bottom, what they do is they get really good distribution of the refrigerant and water throughout the heat exchanger so you don't have cold spots. And that, of course, alleviates the freezing risk. And that's really what what's most important about a water to refrigerant heat exchanger. So this design is really designed for water to refrigerant versus water to water, or maybe refrigerant to refrigerant. And so you can see that. So the distribution device that they use is unique to SWEP and to Enertech. And here's the asymmetrical design. If you look at the two graphics there, you have a symmetrical design, which the water passages and the refrigerant passages are of equal size. And then you have the asymmetric braze plates, which if you notice the water passages, the blue, is much larger than the refrigerant passages. And that allows us, number one, to increase the thermal performance, reduce the size, reduce the overall head pressure on the pumping side, but it also improves the mechanical strength. So SWEP actually went through a very extensive freeze testing procedure with this braze plate. And they put 25 of these in a freeze chamber, and they had to freeze them over 20 times before one would actually rupture, and over 50 times before they had 100% failure. So they did a really good job of testing this to make sure that we're not going to have any freeze issues. And that doesn't even include the controls that we've tailored to this heat exchanger and to this product. So that's the asymmetrical design that we're utilizing here. The other part that they are really designed into the braze plate, if you notice down on the bottom left, with their distribution piping, they don't allow any water access into the very cold refrigerant inlet. And again, that just alleviates any possible or potential freeze issues. So if there's no water around the coldest part where the refrigerant comes in, there's no way we're going to freeze that water. And so they've done a really good job, again, of designing this asymmetric heat exchanger specifically for the water source heat pump market. Okay, moving on. The flow switch, again, I mentioned this. We're working with Sika on the flow switch, and again, it's optimized for SWEP's braze plate heat exchanger as well as Enertech's horizontal heat pump. And the flow switches are all different flow settings based on the tonnage of the unit and the minimum flow that we can see with that product to ensure that we don't have any freeze issues. So the flow switch is not just a standard flow switch across the product. And again, our new lockout board has both flow and freeze sensors integrated within that lockout strategy just to make sure that we're not going to have any issues. And again, you can see here the flow switch and the temperature sensing ahead of the braze plate just to make sure that we're covered. And obviously, we always want to put a Y strainer, 16, 20-pound mesh Y strainer in to protect it for fouling. Okay, moving on. That's really it from the braze plate side of it. Now we're moving on to the air coil. And Enertech has been known for this since 2010 in the industry. We were the first manufacturer of water source heat pumps to incorporate microchannel air coils into our products. This has been a great product for us. We've got well over 13,000 in the field. Again, this isn't new with this particular product. We've been using this in all of our products since 2010. And again, it's just increases the efficiencies in a smaller coil so we can have a compact design. We have a significantly lower pressure drop on the fan motor because of the 32 millimeter coil size. It has less refrigerant volume. It's all aluminum, so we've alleviated any formicary corrosion issues. Fully recyclable. It's just been a fantastic product. And again, coupled with the braze plate, we can get a compact design in a very high efficient product. Our double mode compressor system. This has also been integrated into all of our products at Enertech over the last few years. And of course, this is also in the ZSZT model. And this is designed, highly engineered, again, based on the weight of the compressor. So the Getzner pads, or the pink pads that you see there, they actually are different densities based on the weight of the compressor. So you got a heavy gauge steel plate, a set of rubber grommets, and then you've got the Getzner pads in there that allows that compressor to be 100% floating and just absolutely dead quiet. And this next year we will offer and be publishing sound data. This is also something unique to Enertech we've been doing for a number of years, is the UL Greengard certified EPDM sheet foam cabinet insulation. This is the best insulation for any type of an airborne product. So if you've got air handlers, anything like that, instead of putting fiberglass in the airstream, we don't want any airborne contaminants or any fibers in the airstream. So this is a fantastic product. It's closed cell foam. It has an antimicrobial treatment, so there's no possibilities of any moistures or mold or anything growing within that product, and it also helps with sound. It's very, very good in the sound dampening aspect. And this is standard, again, across our product. And anything that Enertech builds that's going to be extended range or low temperature application, we're going to use a spray foam application on the heat exchanger just to prevent any type of condensation or corrosion on that heat exchanger. Whereas a lot of the industry has went to a foam tape, which isn't an airtight seal, and of course the R value isn't as good. We've went to a unique and a spray foam application. It's about 3/8 of an inch thick. Okay, and it's a very rigid foam. It's a 16-pound foam and very tough, very durable. You can see there it's very well applied and does a great job just to make sure there's no way we could ever have any condensation and corrosion happening on that heat exchanger. And that's, again, with the extended range or low temperature geothermal applications. And that's it. That's really more of the detail about the product. And again, I appreciate you joining us here this morning. Tim, you can take it away from here.
Okay, Brian, thank you very much. A few questions that have actually come in through the webinar, so fantastic. Thank you all. And again, if you haven't asked one, feel free to type that into your question area. But Brian, the question came in is, what would the weight difference, roughly be between the braze plate versus the coaxial that most people may be familiar with?
Yeah, from the HT to the ZT product, we're almost 100 pounds lighter with that product. Again, we use a heavier gauge steel, so maybe versus some of the competition, we're not quite 100 pounds lighter because, again, we're using a much heavier gauge cabinet. So we're still going to have a little more weight there. But the braze plate to the coax was about a 60 to 70 pound difference depending on the size of the unit.
Okay, fantastic. Yep, excellent question. Thank you for that to come through. Another question here, Brian, is folks want to know, and this will be addressed for everybody here, is how can they obtain a copy of this webinar that we've put through today? So everybody on the webinar today will receive a thank you, as well as, and that'll be in the form of an email, as well as a link to the recording of today so that you'll have that coming to you. And then please watch for future webinars that will also be announced. So if we can maybe head to the next slide, and that's our wrap-up slide. And with that in mind, what we're going to be focusing on here in the very near future, webinars to come from the residential perspective, whether it's for GeoComfort, Hydron Modular, Tetco, we have GeoFlow. Again, that will be with Jeff Hammond. For those of you who know Jeff or don't know Jeff, you won't want to miss this. Jeff has been in the industry a long time and does a beautiful job over there with GeoFlow. That's going to be on loop pressurization on November the 30th, and residential ground loop and key components, and also their NP Plus new product release. So again, can't miss. Definitely join us for that. We will be doing a White Rogers webinar, and that will be in January, and that will be to be determined shortly, but that will focus really our attention on the Sensi, the Wi-Fi introduction of that thermostat. For our commercial friends that are on the webinar today, again, SWEP will be December the 7th, outlining and highlighting the benefits of the braze plate exchanger, as well as just the overall construction. And thank you, Brian. You took an awful long time to be able to go through and let people dissect really what that looks like. So that gives everybody an amazing introduction coming into this December 7th. So thank you for that. And then GeoFlow again with Jeff Hammond on December the 14th. That'll be featuring our commercial pumping, say 5 units or more pumping system. And again, that's going to be touching on the braze plate heat exchange. And if I can just call your attention to the one that's located on the bottom, that is Mr. Steve Smith. He's our president and CEO of Enertech. And this is going to be a fun event. So please tune in on November the 22nd and join us at the kitchen table with Steve Smith. Just a nice overview or review of where Enertech came from, what our passions are, what are we going to continue to do both residentially and commercially. But again, I encourage you to jump in on that. Steve Smith has been in the industry an awful long time, both from a distributor perspective as well as now a manufacturer of geothermal and water source heat pumps since 2007. So with that, I would like to thank everybody for your time today. and that will bring this to a close. We don't see any other questions at this point, so thank you all for taking time to attend today. And Brian, thank you very much for taking people through the benefits of a lot of the detail within the Compact Horizontal Series. We welcome the opportunity to work with you folks. Thank you for entrusting your business to Enertech. Have a great Friday and a wonderful weekend. Thanks, everybody.